people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. It would appear that young Naomi Valle, the younger sister of Yokasta Valle, is set to return to action this week south of the border in Mexico. Opposite the ring Mexico zone, Sanchez Perez for a light flyweight contest scheduled for 10 rounds. Interesting tidbits in association with that show. Australia's own Taylor Robertson is going to be boxing on that same bill. Would seem that she's expanding her horizons and changing her decorum. We'll talk about her fight in another video. Let's talk about Naomi's. Naomi Valle, the younger sister of Yokasta Valle, who managed to achieve some celebrity by participating in a Costa Rican version of Dancing with the Stars and winning the final. She won the whole thing. It's really good. Because in doing so, she's been exposed to a broader audience, not just boxing fans and people who watch boxing, the general public. We saw the same thing some years ago with former champion Sarah Mahfoud in Denmark. She won a Danish version of Dancing with the Stars and achieved some celebrity for it. For Naomi, 20 years old, she would have already had some notoriety because her older sister, Yokasta, quite the accomplished boxer, is not only well known, but well liked in their native Costa Rica. You're already getting an extra push from that. Tack on winning Dancing with the Stars, and that's even better because now you're not just Yokasta's younger sister, you're your own person. Sporting a professional record of 13 wins with no losses, no draws, 9 knockouts, she'll be facing Sanchez Perez, who sports a professional record of 7 wins with 3 losses, 3 draws, no recorded knockouts, having never been knocked out in 13 professional bouts. Last in action in November of last year, opposite the ring, Danthara Morales, who she fought to a majority draw over 6 rounds. Naomi's got 3 of those. 3 draws. She'll be facing Naomi Valle in what looks to be a developmental fight for Naomi Valle south of the border. And even with those developmental fights, you want to stay switched on. You want to treat this like it's a world title fight because it can go sideways. It did for Zarina McCoy. Some years ago it did. I heard a rumor that the same thing happened to Devin Haney south of the border. He was fighting in a developmental fight and he lost. At which point his father Bill paid whoever he needed to pay to have the decision overturned. A rumor that's been around for a while. Gotta stay switched on even in developmental fights. Naomi had about 4 developmental fights last year. She's been active the way a young fighter is supposed to be in the early stages of her career. Last in action in November, opposite the ring Norma Cruz, who she decisioned in a 4-rounder. The fight against Yelmi is a step up in competition because the vast majority of these girls that Naomi has fought have upside down records, meaning they have more losses than victories. She'll be facing somebody with a winning record, now more victories than losses. Over 10 rounds. This is for a youth version of a WBC title in the light flyweight division. It appears that Naomi has decided to move up. Up until recently, she had been campaigning in the minimum weight division alongside her sister, where Yokasta reigns as WBC champion, but I guess they didn't want to be competing for belts in the same weight class, so Naomi has decided to move up. I think that's why she moved up. So she's at light flyweight now, where Canada's own Sarah Bailey holds the WBA title. Mexico's own Lourdes Suarez has the WBC, and Argentina's own Evelyn Bermudez has the other 2. This is where Naomi is now campaigning. Her best bet to fight for a title down the line, her best bet to fight for a title and win one would have to be through Canada's own Sarah Bailey, because Sarah only has about 5 professional bouts. Naomi actually has more fights than she does.
Not the same quality of competition, though. You have to give that to Sarah. Sarah Bailey's win over a former champion in Annabelle Ortiz is better than any win you'll find on Naomi's resume so far. She has some catching up to do in that department, but still, she does have more fights and more rounds in the bank than Sarah, and because she's several years younger than Sarah, time is on her side. So that's who she should target for an alphabet title.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, she's going to be in action south of the border this weekend in a developmental fight, and we'll see if she makes it through it.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, in the men's bantamweight division, 3-division champion Junto Nakatani halted Mexico's own David Cuellar in the 3rd round and is now calling for a title unification clash with champion Ryosuke Nishida.
This was early yesterday in the wee hours of the morning. Junto Nakatani knew that enough left hands would eventually close the show. The long weapon of the 3-division champion was enough to turn away Mexico's own David Cuellar, whom Nakatani stopped in the 3rd round. Brutally, I might add. 2 knockdowns paved the way for the fight's end at 2 minutes and 59 seconds into the 3rd round in their ESPN Plus Amazon Prime Japan main event Monday evening at the Ariake Arena in Tokyo, Japan. For those paying attention, you will notice a glaring difference in between how boxing matches are promoted by Amazon in Japan and how they're really not promoted here in America.
I chalk it up to the deal structure. Whatever deal structure those guys have over there ain't the same deal structure that the PBC has over here.
In tandem with the marketability of the show, that these fights in Japan, they actually do move the needle over there, whereas the fights over here, not so much.
Not unless it's Canelo.
It was a rare matchup where Nakatani, who stands in at 5'8", was the slightly shorter fighter against this 5'8.5" challenger.
It's not often the case at those weights. Usually, Junto is the taller, longer fighter in the ring at 118 pounds. 5'8" is actually tall for those weights.
David Cuellar was the tallest fighter I've ever faced. Nakatani said through an in-the-ring translator, Mizuka Koike, "I was happy to get the win." Nakatani, 30-0 with 23 KOs, is the ring's #1 bantamweight and #9 pound-for-pound fighter. Took a measured approach in the opening round. Still, it didn't take him long to find a home for his straight left hand. Cuellar, 28-1 with 22 KOs, the ring's #8 bantamweight, was slow out of the gate in a fight that marked his first title fight, first 12-rounder, and first career trip outside of Mexico. His best and perhaps only shining moment came towards the end of the 2nd round when the Chepo Reynoso-trained contender landed a right hand upstairs. The corner advice immediately put Nakatani on the right track. Head trainer Rudy Hernandez cautioned Nakatani against telegraphing his punches, which prompted a return to the jab. Cuellar managed a left hook around Nakatani's extended right arm, but the moment was short-lived.
So that's how you know it's not just Junto Nakatani's statuesque frame that is leading to these dominant wins, these dominant victories, because here you have him opposite the ring, a kid who's just as big as he is, but he knocked him out all the same way he knocks everybody else out.
Nakatani pawed with his jab and followed with a straight left down the middle. Cuellar first attempted to create space and later bobbed and weaved to avoid the incoming punch. Neither tactic had much success. Nakatani closed the gap with a perfectly placed left hand to the body. It was followed by a left hand upstairs to put Cuellar on the canvas with 25 seconds to go in the round. Cuellar was on a knee while blood streamed from the bridge of his nose as referee Michael Griffin issued a mandatory 8 count.
It's not just height with Junto. There's genuine boxing acumen, boxing skill, good shot selection, spacing.
Cuellar beat the count, but 2 more lefts sent him right back to the deck. This time, Griffin reached the full 10 count to signal the end of the fight. Nakatani is now 9-0 in major title fights, all but one, which have ended in a knockout. He has now stopped his last 4 opponents, all in the span of exactly 1 year. His WBC title reign began with a 6th-round knockout of Alejandro Santiago, also of Mexico, on this date 1 year ago at the Ryogoku Kokukan Arena in Tokyo. Naturally, after any win, the immediate question is, what lies ahead for the victor? Far too many boxing media members have angled for an immediate Japanese super fight between Nakatani and 4-weight champion Naoya Inoue, the ring and undisputed super bantamweight king and number 2 pound-for-pound fighter. Such a fight will come in due time and will serve as the biggest fight ever in Japan. That said, both fighters have remained career-driven without the other in their immediate sights.
Understanding the size, scale, and significance of a potential Nakatani versus Inoue fight, it's a subject we've often broached here on the channel, though Junto doesn't have any immediate plans of moving up or fighting Inoue, irrespective of those aforementioned factors. He wants to unify his own division.
And I'm okay with that. I just wish they would get a move on.
He wants to unify with Ryusuke Nishida.
IBF champion, 10-0 with 2 KOs, and I've seen Ryusuke. He's a good fighter. He's a good fighter in his own right, but Junto would go in as the favorite if and when they fight, if and when they unify. Junto would be the logical choice. He said, after my last fight, I asked who's next. This time, Nishida, let's fight. Nakatani said with his countryman standing next to him as the crowd immediately reacted in awe.
You know that if Ryusuke is willing, this is a fight that we might get towards either the end of the spring or early summer months.
I would go with Junto to beat every other champion at the weight, every single one of them, that if he can get these guys in the ring, he stands a very good chance of becoming this division's next undisputed champion.
Adding to his profile in all the ways that Inoue did when he was campaigning at this same weight. The blueprint is there. You know what you have to do.
And this is all without being bogged down by the same old talking points, the same old conversation. I mean, yes, I would like to see Junto fight Inoue in the not-so-distant future, but in this situation, I actually don't mind the build-up. I don't mind that Junto is adding to his own legacy.
That just makes the Inoue fight bigger.
And while he's doing that, Inoue can continue to take care of business at his own weight, presumably against Alan Picasso in his next fight, then hopefully against MJ Akhmadaliev, MJ, whose people say they are now having positive talks, positive conversations for the fight with Inoue.
Oh, so they're not accusing him of ducking them anymore?
Well, I always felt that Inoue was going to fight him. It was just a matter of time, though more time than the MJ people had patience.
Crying to the media every 5 minutes.
You know, things are moving along at 122. Things are moving along at 118. It only took Junto 3 rounds to get rid of Cuellar. So now he can rest up, take some time to heal, and hopefully get back out there at some point over the summer months, presumably in a unification match, let's hope.
Good shit, Junto. Good hustle.
In men's lightweight news, ahead of this weekend's box office fight, fans bash Davis vs. Roach, pay-per-view price, quote-unquote, no way I'm paying. The pay-per-view price for Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach Jr. has received huge backlash. The fight will take place March 1st as Davis defends his WBA lightweight title. He arrives into the fight with a stoppage win over Frank Martin last year. It's the only fight that he had last year.
He was supposed to return towards the end of it, but the story is he wanted to take some time off to spend with his newborn son.
The Roach fight has been priced at $80. Tank has said he will box 3 times this year before announcing his retirement. The price point may have been done to reflect that Davis does not have a lot of time left in the sport.
I disagree with that. They charge this for all of their pay-per-views.
Roach will enter into the bout with a move up from 130 pounds. He won the WBA title in that division, having beaten Hector Garcia, who was coming off the loss to Gervonta Davis. Now, Roach is a massive underdog since it is the first time he's fighting at a new weight. Davis has often been criticized for not facing big names, despite consistent links with the likes of Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney. His biggest win so far has been against Ryan Garcia, who's not as decorated a fighter as they are, but the Garcia win has an asterisk over it. Garcia said he was weight drained as the fight took place at 136 at a catch weight. Garcia also had a 10-pound rehydration clause. The Roach fight has come under fire for the pricing. Boxing fans have just seen the undisputed light heavyweight championship fight between Beterbiev and Bivol, which only costed them $26.
You're gonna have people and you're gonna have content creators trying to gaslight you into thinking that this is value for money, but the people that actually spend money, the actual paying customers in the sport know
This is a ripoff.
that's saying that a lot of these guys that try to act like Gervonta Davis's fights are value for money, a lot of these guys are guys that don't actually pay for anything, because if they did, they'd know.
They'd say it themselves if they were spending their own money. This is a ripoff.
Beterbiev versus Bivol was priced at $25, meaning that fans got to see one of the biggest fights out there for a fraction of the cost. The fans also saw the undisputed heavyweight fight between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk for less than the Roach fight.
Raises a serious question mark over how long boxing fans will continue to pay for high pay-per-view prices. PBC is also not holding as many events. The Saudis have already said that their global vision is to have a price point of around $20, meaning that something has to change. Boxing fans have now made their voices clear on social media, with many disapproving over Davis versus Roach.
I know that a lot of this is what you hear from me on this channel. The reason I highlighted it this time is because now it's not just me saying it.
Boxing insider Rick Glacier said the Tank vs. Davis Lamont Roach pay-per-view price is a whopping $80 on Amazon Prime. Everyone involved should be embarrassed, but they aren't. The pay-per-view pricing by PBC is totally out of touch, especially considering Turkey's Riyadh season events are very nicely priced at in between $20 to $26. This fight will be pirated by most, and Amazon Prime will be saying bye to the PBC. That's boxing the PBC way.
Took an independent poll on Twitter yesterday. Sample size of about 250, 300 people.
It's at about 372 voters right now, close to 400, and it was a landslide.
I asked, who's gonna buy the pay-per-view and who's gonna skip it?
93% of voters stated they will not be buying the pay-per-view. And if that's not a big enough sample size for you, look at what other reactions are out there from other individuals.
Having no association, no affiliation to me or this channel, you will notice that the reactions are the same. At a time where a case of eggs can cost you anywhere in between $8 to $14 depending on what state you live in.
In this economy, you want to charge people $80 for a fight nobody was asking for, when just the other weekend we got a better fight, a better bill,
Top to bottom.
for 3 times less than what this weekend's pay-per-view is going to cost you. In tandem with the cheaper alternative on DAZN, Subriel Matias will be facing Gabriel Valenzuela, and it won't cost you $80 to watch.
The point.
There's no safe money out there for Gervonta Davis anymore. With Showtime having left the sport of boxing, you don't get those hefty guarantees the same way that you used to, and the most money you can hope to make is from the upside of a pay-per-view, but this pay-per-view ain't gonna have no upside, because nobody's gonna buy it.
You don't want to work with Turkey.
And that explains why he might retire. I could totally see it. I could totally see this being the final year of Gervonta Davis's boxing career, because he'd rather walk away from the sport than step up in class.
He said he's going to fight 3 times this year, and that's it. The Lamont Roach fight would be the first.
So if this pay-per-view grossly underperforms, and it might, you know that might accelerate his retirement plans, then why even do it?
Why do another one? Nobody's buying these things.
It's what he's gonna see. You no longer have the marketing arm of Showtime to push and promote you and your fights anymore. Amazon doesn't put in the same effort.
Less people are buying pay-per-views.
Just retire after this one, Gervonta. Do us all a favor.